Hello and welcome back to This Week in Biotech. Today is edition 69, covering biotech and pharma news from September 5th to September 11th, 2025. First up is Novo Nordisk. Novo is going through a big reset. It's cutting about 9,000 jobs, roughly 12% of its workforce, including 5,000 roles in Denmark, which is the largest layoff in the country's history. The goal is to save about 1.25 billion US dollars a year and refocus on diabetes and obesity after losing momentum to Eli Lilly. Remember, Wegovy and Ozempic went from rocket ships to still big but not invincible. 3 profit warnings this year, a market cap slide of roughly 450 billion US dollars since mid-2024, and a new CEO, Mike Doudstar, who is essentially saying simplify, execute, and spend where it matters. Savings are slated to go into supply expansion, a pill version of Wegovy, launches in new markets, and even consumer telehealth channels. Shares ticked up on the news. The White House is circulating a draft order that would curb US pharma ability to license drugs invented in China and add friction to applications that rely on China-generated clinical data. Think mandatory national security review for US China licensing deals, tougher FDA scrutiny, and extra fees for filings that lean on Chinese data, and push to reshore manufacturing of basics like antibiotics with purchasing preference once US supply scales. It's splitting the room. Investors like Peter Thiel and Sergey Brin reportedly back a crackdown, but big pharma like Pfizer and AstraZeneca and others say this chokes a major source of pipeline assets. For context, Western companies spent about 48 billion US dollars in China in the first half of 2025 alone. A White House spokesperson said that the administration isn't actively considering the order, but national security concerns are clearly in the mix. Even if this softens, the direction of travel is de-risking. Expect slower, pricier deal-making and more emphasis on US-EU data in late-stage programs. Deal of the week. Novartis is buying Tourmaline Bio for 1.4 billion US dollars. The prize is Pasibekitug, an antibody that blocks IL-6 to reduce systemic inflammation, one of the residual risks still driving heart attacks and strokes after LDL cholesterol is controlled. In phase 2, the drug cut hsCRP, which is a key inflammatory marker tied to these events, by about 85 to 86% at 90 days with either monthly low dose or once quarterly high dose injections, and safety looked very similar to placebo. Strategically, Novartis positions itself against Novo's competing IL-6 drug, which needs monthly dosing. Quarterly could be convenience edge if outcomes hold. Now I'm going to turn a little bit into science and revolution medicine in pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma is brutally hard to treat, and most tumors carry a mutation called RAS. Revolution's oral RAS inhibitor, daraxonrasib, continues to look encouraging. In longer follow-up for second-line patients, response rates landed around 30%, with median progression-free survival about 8 months and overall survival roughly 13 to 16 months. Solid numbers for this setting. Early first-line data looked even better. Monotherapy showed a 47% response rate. Adding standard chemo reached 55% with no new safety issues. Based on this, the company is starting a 3-arm global phase 3 in newly diagnosed metastatic patients this quarter, testing mono and combo against chemo. Obviously, it's still early for a first-line durability, but if the phase 3 confirms these early signs, this could shift practice, especially for patients who can't tolerate aggressive chemotherapies. And then there is one more meaningful oncology win for Biotech and Duality Bio. Their next-generation antibody-drug conjugate, trastuzumab parmitecan, met the primary goal in a head-to-head phase 3 in China for previously treated advanced HER2-positive breast cancer, beating the established antibody-drug conjugate T-DM1 at delaying progression. Duality Bio plans to discuss a filing in China, and a separate goal phase 3 in HER2-low breast cancer is already underway. This is the first phase 3 victory from BioNTech's 2023 antibody-drug conjugate collaboration with Duality Bio. The antibody-drug conjugate arms race is alive and well, beating TDM1 matters. Now I'm watching closely for duration of response and how results translate in HER2 low, where the patient pool is larger. There's obviously so much more in this week's edition. So if you're interested, make sure to read the rest of the edition or listen to my AI generated podcast, which is generally pretty good if you don't feel like reading. And if you find this useful, as always, please hit subscribe and share with a friend in biotech.